Preparing to live stream the webinar. That's good.
I've got to press. Can I? It's come up on me. This meeting's being live streamed, so I'll press OK as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. We are live.
All right. Well, I think we are just waiting maybe 30 more seconds as people start coming in. Live today at 7 p.m. Yes. That's us. That's you.
It is, and Spencer, there's a nervous tension here today in Australia ahead of today's game. Lucky it isn't Australia, America. Hey, there might be some more tension.
Yeah, well, we just played Australia, and it's so funny
Yeah.
because a friend of mine is dating an Australian, and they were in Seattle for the game, and
Yeah.
yes, we
That was a good
won.
game. The US played well.
That's right. Okay, let's see. Live stream. All right. Well, I'm not seeing it go on LinkedIn yet for some reason. And it still says upcoming, so that's interesting. View as a member. All right, I just got to make sure that we get this started, that it's going, and then we can kick off.
I should log into LinkedIn and see if we're live.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're just joining us, we're just making sure that the live is working. And that is why, there we go. It says offline. Okay, we are live. Yes. Okay, it's all good to go.
Fantastic. Is it live on LinkedIn as well?
Well,
I can't see it on when I log in, but that's interesting.
I'll tell you what. TCI, hold on 1 second. And yes,
And if you are
it
here,
is
bear with us
streaming.
while
It is
we.
streaming. Yes, on TCI.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Welcome, welcome, everybody.
All right. Took us a second. Welcome, everybody, indeed. We're going to start off right away. My name is Spencer Horn, and we'll introduce both of us in a second. We are going to start off today with a poll. So if you have your camera out, we're going to do a little Mentimeter poll. And I'm going to pull this up on right now. So if you can, hold on, do that one more time. Here we go on Google Chrome. There we go. So you should be able to see this Mentimeter poll, and it says, what best describes your current work? So take a picture of that QR code. See, we have at least one person, 3 people. Good. That means you're out there. I'm so happy. What is it that you do? Are you primarily a coach of individuals? Are you working with executives, professionals? Look at, we have some team coaches listening. That's fantastic. Are you an HR or organizational development, learning and development expert and work with teams? And I think you may be able to answer multiple on these. And I am exploring team coaching for the first time. We just want to know who is listening, and this is a little bit different than most webinars that we've done because we are doing it completely live on social media and not having guests in. So we're hoping that you are getting on and seeing what we're sharing. Good. So we have some people that have coaching experience and HR and OD experience. That's wonderful. So as I said, my name is Spencer Horn. I am the president of Team Coaching International. And, we just started with something that's a little individual, familiar, and it's individual information about you. Organizational development is fantastic. I have had the opportunity to work with many organizations in my career. I've been the CEO of a leadership company. I've been the vice president of a publicly traded company. Worked with lots of organizations. I've done a lot of training and development. And one of the things that I've noticed is that those didn't always work. Maybe you're here because you sense something as well, that the tools that you currently have are maybe you'd like to get better results than you're currently getting. And you sense that the tools that you have aren't always enough. And that the change that you want that doesn't always work through facilitation, or it does, but it doesn't stick. And that something larger than the individual is at work. Well, Team Coaching International was founded on exactly that insight. Our founders, Philip Sandall and Alexis Phillip, they spent years asking one question. What does it actually take to create lasting performance? Not just a good day, not a productive offsite, lasting change. And they really discovered some great processes that we're going to share with you. And I want to introduce my incredible co-host. She is working with me all the way from Australia. Where in Australia are you exactly, Pollyanna?
I'm based in Melbourne.
In Melbourne. And totally, I've never been there, but I understand it's very, very beautiful. Is that right?
Well, of course, I'm biased. It is the most wonderful city. We're very blessed in Australia to have some great cities and great regional areas as well. So wherever you're coming from today, welcome. And you're either rugging up warm if you're in Melbourne, or sitting on a beach if you're somewhere else.
And I love working with Pollyanna, and you can see she's incredible with the experience that she has. I know over 26 years of coaching, 18 years of team coaching experience. She started working with team coaching very early on, and she has had the opportunity to really apply this methodology. And so as an expert, we couldn't ask for anybody better to join with us. I want to share a little bit of our Team Coaching International history. We have been doing this work for over 20 years now. We were founded in 2005. We have certified coaches in 45 countries. We have our diagnostic tools, our assessments that are translated into 22 languages. We have worked with over 20,000 real team cases all around the world. We have generated over 4,000 team diagnostic reports and a special report that we call a team leader view report, where a leader will take a look at their team and where they are. So what can people expect over the next few minutes from us, Pollyanna?
Absolutely. And we appreciate your time. Your time is incredibly valuable. So thank you for choosing to come and spend it with us today. In the next 60 minutes, what you can expect is we're going to give you some insight, the data and the framework that changes how you work with teams earlier. So Spencer mentioned something that was quite pivotal, certainly in my journey with this work, is the way I was working with teams wasn't working, because I was coaching individuals and expecting team outcomes. And that was a game changer in the type of results that were achieved. So we'll be talking about that as well and sharing some of those results with you.
I love that. Thank you. You're exactly right. And there are challenges in working with teams. And I have had the same opportunity when I left that company that I worked with. I wanted to get into more organizational development and coaching and training. And I had so much great content. Yet when I started applying what we're going to share with you today, the results were unbelievable, the benefits. But let's start with what the challenge is. And here's what we have found at Team Coaching International in the 20 years that we've been in business. Of these thousands of teams that we have evaluated, we have found, and this is self-reporting, that these organizations are saying that only 10% of teams can be considered high performing. McKinsey Company, they have done research with their clients, and the executives that they work with say that they can only say that 20% of these executives believe that their organizations that they're working with are performing at the highest level. I
Yeah.
had the opportunity to speak with the chief psychologist for Qualtrics, which is a company based here in the United States that helps other organizations really identify the trends and data of what happens in their business. And what he said was the Venn diagram of clients, of 1,500 clients that were profitable in the last 3 years and at the same time had a positive culture, was only 4.7%. The last data point I have comes from a study in January of 2024 by Harvard Business Review. And this was a study of 1,000 teams that HBR studied, and they found that only 8.9% of teams, Pollyanna, were high performing. So that means if you're listening to this and there's 10 of us, that only one of us is considered high performing. That means that there is productivity that is being left unrealized. That means there are opportunities that are being missed. So this is a challenge. I mean, this is something that I feel like I have experienced in my work with teams. I feel like there's just so much so. But think about what that means. That
Mm.
there is so much opportunity out there. But then I want you to think about this. Think about the best team or the most memorable team that you have ever had. What was it about that team that made it great? What were the conditions on the team? What was it like to work there? Just take a moment. It doesn't have to necessarily. Maybe I should qualify that, Pollyanna. Does it have to be a business experience? Could it be any team?
It can be any team, and it can be any team over your timeline. So think about that team,
Yeah.
and you know what it is. It's in your mind right now. And how are you feeling about that experience? What happened on that team to make it the best team? There'll
Yeah.
be there'll be ingredients, right? There'll be things that had you love being a part of that team. And I'm guessing it wasn't always easy to be on that team. It might not have always been, sunshine and balloons, right?
Right.
And
Because
sometimes
of those expectations, right, Pollyanna?
correct.
Yeah.
And sometimes we climb hard, right?
That's exactly right. And so you think about those teams that stand out as Pollyanna has described, and we talk about them. I have a friend who helped with the 2002 Winter Olympics here in Utah, and it was so hard. His team took over when the previous team was failing, and they worked so hard. But it was one of the most memorable experiences that he's ever had, and it was so positive. So these are the teams that stand out when we talk about when we get together and tell about. Do you remember when? And that's what we want you to think about and ruminate on, because in a positive way when I say that. So now when you think of now just go back for a second and think of some challenges. I'm going to share another poll with you. I'd like you to take out your phone one more time. Well, maybe more than one. We're going to do this a couple times. But I'd like for you to think of the teams that you are working with or that you're on right now, and what patterns do you recognize? So, for example, trust issues might be on that team that persisted even after team building activities. You could have accountability problems that didn't improve despite clear expectations. You had a leader who grew with maybe they were being coached, but the team culture stayed the same, even though the leader improved. You could have a situation where there's conflict that went underground even after uh, the problems were addressed, but they weren't resolved. And then finally, you had a workshop or an intervention that created some short term energy, but didn't stick. Love for you to take, and if you are able to take a picture of that QR code and tell me which of those have you experienced. Give you a minute to give that a try.
Just looking at the responses coming in. There we go. So there's a range here of experiences.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, all of these are potential issues that people have. Sometimes, I mean, I see that the leader grew, and that's really the theme of this webinar is you can have this leader improving and growing and going through coaching, yet
Mhm.
they're not able to make the change and the shift that they want to make. So thank you for participating in that. Pollyanna, there are several myths when it comes to working with teams. I would love for you to share these and bust these, if you will, for our participants that are watching.
Absolutely. So the myths are important to bust, but more importantly is to have a robust system to bust them in an effective, efficient, and sustainable way. That's why looking at myths are important, right? Insight, without knowing how to move forward with that insight can be an enormous waste of time as you start. It's like the hamster in the wheel, right? So myth
Yeah.
number one, team problems are really leadership problems. That's a really interesting one. Yes, the leader is a part of the team system. So there are times when the leader is a part of, is directing the system, and the leader is part of this system, and the system is operating and is larger than any one person, including the leader. Does that make sense? So it's more than a collection of its individual parts. It's a system in its own right. If you think about a team as a living, breathing entity, a system in its own right, collectively interacting, what is the result of that interaction? We don't, we're not orbiting around one person in a system. We are all contributing to that system,
Right.
and we need to unearth what do those what are those contributions, and what's the impact of that on the system.
We have myth number 2.
And that's better communication training solves everything. And that's a really interesting one, Spencer, because yes, learning to communicate and communicate well is really important. However,
Exactly.
in the
Sure it is.
teams, it's important. You've got to take that one home with you, right? Which is probably where we fail the most. But the communication piece in a system is different. We change the conversation from what do the individuals in the team need? What do I need as an individual in the system? Yes, that is important. It's important to understand your needs. However, what does the team need, and how do we bring that communication into the team collectively so we have it together? Removing all triangles, removing, the conversations that need to happen. How do we have those together and collectively, rather than in the corridors or about the problems that we're facing? We bring and build the communication capability to a systems level. And what that means is we talk about it together. We talk about the issues that matter together rather than individually. That in itself probably sounds really easy. Sure, we'll all get into a room and have the conversations that matter. And in our experience, unless we create a framework around that, firm agreements, provide the opportunity to do so and the support to do so, most of the important conversations aren't happening at a team level. That is another game changer in how teams work together.
Absolutely. And the last myth.
Myth number 3: team coaching is individual coaching at a larger scale. This was transformative, certainly when I did the training. And I've trained a couple of times on this process. Each time I go, oh, I forgot about that. That was really good. Refreshing information. So we are not coaching a collection of individuals. A lot of diagnostics will, some coaches might, and I know I was one of those coaches before I learned the team system. I would do an individual diagnostic. I'd pop the results up on the wall and say, here's who we all are as individuals. What does this mean for us as a team? That is not an accurate blueprint of how the team is operating together. So what we do is we measure the system as the team as a system across 14 key capabilities, which we'll talk about later on. That gives a clear map of how does this system, how does this team operate together on the things that matter with regards to engagement and performance. And that's based on deep research.
This is so. I want you to you mentioned this idea that the team is a system.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And I think that's really important because I just had a virtual team coaching session, and we were doing a review. It was with a group in the Middle East that we hadn't worked with for a little while because of the war. And they
Yeah.
really struggled to answer what does that mean that the team is a system? Can you describe that? I've got a slide that it's a visual that I think will help as you describe what that might be.
So one of the most powerful questions I think a leader can ask is, rather than what do I need as an individual in the team, what does the team need to be successful? Right? So the team is a living system more than the collection of its individual parts. That
Right.
shift itself is incredibly important. So when you're coaching, the client is the team, not the individuals in the team.
Well, but
So
how does that work? I mean, can you describe that? If the client is the team, how what is the so think about that for a moment. So when you're coaching one individual, you have one set of
mhm.
plans, one set of ideas, right? You have one vision for what should happen. What happens if you're coaching 10 people? How does that work?
Absolutely. So you coach the 10 people collectively. So there are principles and unwritten rules in every system, right?
Yeah.
Think about when you walk into a room, you feel the energy of that room. You feel whether it's tension, whether it's joy, whether you feel it, right? So you're coaching what's happening in the system, not what is happening to individuals in the system. I know that can sound a little counterintuitive. However, all teams have rules for survival, right? Some of them are unwritten rules. Some of them we're wired to survive in a system, right? So we actually fundamentally already know this. It's reconnecting with it, Spencer. I think that's a fundamental part of this process. So teams from that you've got, what how do I survive in this system? What's okay in this system? What's
Yeah.
not okay in this system? And coming back to the conversation piece, what often is missing in a team system is having constructive dialogue and conversation around what is not okay in this system, and having those conversations with the issues in front of us rather than between us. That's the methodology starts to bring the conversations to life as a team issue to solve, not interpersonal conflicts that we have to manage within the team. That is
So,
a distinct.
are you saying then instead of saying Spencer is he's not accountable, he's not following up with the work that he's doing. Instead, this is a system where accountability
Correct.
is where we don't hold all team members to the same level of account.
Correct. And what is the impact of that on the system, on the work we are doing, the projects,
Yeah.
and how do we? So it also depersonalizes and takes some of the heat out. In this team, we have rules. We have unwritten rules. We have visible rules. We have explicit. We have the hidden ones. Let's surface all of those so we get real clarity for this team to be successful in the endeavors and to have those same wonderful feelings about being on the best team ever. These are the explicit rules and agreements we make as a team so we can work and achieve well together,
Right.
rather than the assumptions, the hidden rules. Because underneath every team interaction is an invisible operating system. So I think that's the answer to your question, is we make the invisible operating system visible.
So let me share an example of this from my own personal experience. I worked for a company many years ago. This was actually a leadership training development company, and I was hired to do organizational development training with them. This was right at the start of 2008 when this global recession started, but they had already been in business for about 30 years. So they already had a very strong culture and system that existed, a way of doing things. You talk about what do people get rewarded for or punished, and
Mhm.
that was part of the system, and it was very strong. And I was initially very excited. And when the recession hit, they had me go into sales. Now they had the system for selling was very specific. You had to have clients that would go to the training, and then after they came out of the training, they would be so excited that they would refer people to you. Well, that doesn't work very well for a brand new salesperson that has nobody in the training class. So that system didn't work for me. And the problem was I figured out a new way to do it that wasn't the normal way, and I was punished by those within the system saying that's not how we do things around here. I did it anyway, and eventually became the CEO of that company. And I don't say that in a bragging way, Pollyanna. I was the fourth CEO in 5 years. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of our listeners have ever seen that old movie with Julia Roberts, The Runaway Bride, and all the people that she left at the altar. And I figured, well, that was the other bridegrooms, and I'm the one that's going to make it work. I have a great plan to change this organization. I've kind of bucked so quote unquote the system as much as I could individually, but now I'm in charge, and I was working with the individual people on the team trying to change how they did the work that we did within this system. And it didn't work. I was with that company for
Yeah.
7.5 years,
Yeah.
and I left that company the same as when I started it. Now, here's the end of the story. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed a thought leader who had the opportunity, who was hired by them to come in and help make some changes. She lasted less than 2 months. And I asked her about her experience, and she described the system that existed when she left. It was the exact same system that I left 10 years earlier. So when you say the system wants to survive, this is a personal example that I have seen that the system wants to survive. Here is the point of our webinar. You can coach a leader within a company, the CEO of the company. I had these great ideas. I thought that I was going to be able to change the company. You can, with all of your experience as an executive coach, you can spend a lot of time and teach them everything they need to do. However, if you don't address the system, everything
And
will stay the same.
Ben, so there's something really important that you're saying here, and that is success isn't an individual pursuit as a team. It's a team
not.
pursuit. And it begins to make sense, right? The sense making comes as the sense making will come as you contemplate what we're speaking about today.
Yes.
Because the goal of coaching is to help the team move from point A to point B.
Yes.
However, if they don't know what point A is, then that's a really difficult climb, right? So the system will survive. Is what it's holding on to, holding the team back or moving the team forward. And so what I love about this process is really there's nowhere to hide. It's a very robust and sometimes not for the faint of heart, depending on where the team is at, but the psychological safety, the care, the attention, and that is built through this process creates such solid roots and foundation for the team that regardless of what the next storm is, they weather it because they weather it together. And that is probably one of the biggest shifts that I see and excite me most is the team, once the system, how they operate is revealed, those undercurrents, and once the adjustments are made and they align and come together with clarity, where every person in that room understands what it means to be in this team, what the focus is. When that clarity comes, the team has what it needs, and it no longer needs an external person to help them stay successful.
Which brings up such an interesting. That brings up I think something that we believe very strongly, and I know you do too, and because we actually talked about this before we went on live today, is that people want to be on a winning team, don't they?
Of course they do. Who wakes up in the morning as know what, find the biggest bunch of losers I can. I want who aren't performing and where I'm just going to come home and feel miserable every night, I'm going to go and join that team.
Exactly.
People are
So my
well-meaning. They don't want that, right?
They do. So my question then is, if people want to be on a high performing team, do teams can all teams be high performing?
Of course, you'd follow the process, right? Absolutely.
Even
You
if they're not
can.
right now, a team, no matter how dysfunctional or struggling they are, we believe that they can be high performing.
Well, the data shows it can. Now, there are some caveats here. There are some teams who, where to continue on, there might be a reorg of that team. There might be a restructure of how that team is operating, in who's operating within that team. That there are cases for that. And the teams I've worked with, 90% of the teams I've worked with have not had to reorg. Some people have opted out. They went, I'm not up for this journey. It might be for a values clash. I worked with an incredible team who there was one team member who said, I can't be on board with this change. The structure was so solid within that team that this person said, you know what, I recognize I am derailing the system. I am derailing this team because at a fundamental level of my values, I am not on board with this change. They all acknowledged this person for her courage to speak to that. And they said, how can we help you? She goes, get me another job. Right? I will hand over respectfully. Well, I can't be in this team and I can't do this work. So they found her 14 team members, got out to their networks and helped this person find an opportunity where they could thrive. Right? That's extraordinary. Do you know how
Fantastic,
extraordinary that
but
is?
it's wonderful because the system created an environment that is going to be the one that the majority of those people want, and it is not uncommon for some people to say, yeah, I don't want to be on this bus because and I'm going to give maybe a negative example. All of a sudden, the system realizes that where the lack of accountability is coming from. It's not pointing
Yeah.
fingers at everybody else. It's holding the mirror up to the entire system and saying, we don't want that anymore. Well, there might be one or two people on the team that appreciated flying under the radar and not having to be held to account.
Oh my gosh, that's so important. Recently working well, when I say recently, please know that could have been 10 years ago or, last week. I just want to say recently.
Time is relative. The older we get, Pollyanna, and that's not you, but I'm talking about me. It seems like the years are shorter and shorter and shorter because it's all relative, right?
It also helps with confidentiality, right? To speak, more broadly about the work that we do.
Yes.
And I've completely lost what I was going to tell you now. It was very important, though. At the time, it was relevant, but we'll keep
No,
moving on.
we were talking about accountability. Some people might not want
Oh,
to
I'm
be on
with
that
you.
team.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's Friday, right? It's
Yes.
Friday here. It's Thursday in
And we've got a
America.
great big soccer game coming up for
Oh
Australia.
my gosh, yes, yes. We're doing a family soccer match at midday. So here's the thing. Sometimes in the system, there'll be conversations in the team, right? When we say team, we're talking system, but it's also part of a broader ecosystem, right? Are you a team that other departments are able to work with effectively? There's no point being a rock star team if nobody wants to interact with you outside that team, right? So, there's so many nuances and layers to this work. But I'm working with a team where team members were saying, we want more autonomy. We want more decision-making rights. We want more accountability in our team. When that was given and, recognized that, yes, the bottleneck was the leader, we need to actually change how we operate as a system and allow the expertise and talents of the team to emerge, the individuals to emerge so that the team can be successful. There were team members that opted out of that team because all of a sudden with that autonomy and those decision-making rights came accountability that they decided they weren't able to meet for whatever reason, and no judgment. We never know what's going on in people's lives. We never know where people are at. So for whatever reason, they self-selected out because the accountability was too high for them.
Well, that's why I love
So
your story where they help the team member find another job. I think that's a sign of a high performing team.
It certainly is. And so think about, what is the goal of the team? The goal of the team, well, why are you there? You're there because you've got work to do. So that's why you're together, to get the job done. And when there's high levels of safety, trust, camaraderie, all those things, and high levels of accountability and all those productivity factors that we'll talk about later on, that's how the work gets done.
So thank you. And those of you listening, if I have another poll, Pollyanna.
Mm,
Think of a team that you were on where the culture, just this is just going back a step.
yeah.
Um, think of a team that you were on where the culture seemed to outlast any individual on it. So I'm going to throw this up, and I know we've got a couple of you listening, and I think we have a problem, by the way, with LinkedIn, which I'm very sad about. So we have a few people on the webinar right here. We see you, Jill, and
Is Cindy there as well? Because she was having problems getting on.
yeah, it's I'm checking the back office. It says it's all live, but I'm just sorry. We've got Claudia and Jill with us here on the webinar, so we're glad you're here. It doesn't matter if
Oh,
there's
hey,
two
Claudia.
or 200. So somebody says yes. They think of a team where the culture outlasted anybody on. I told you my example, and that's a definite yes.
Mm.
So we've got one of four. If you am I sharing that? I should be sharing that. Yes, I
Yeah, you
am.
are. Yeah,
Okay, we
yeah.
got it. Me, Mean Girls.
Mean girls.
We got three yeses and we got Mean Girls. That's funny. Excellent. All right. So this there's a great need for this type of solution that helps the team get past this need to survive and transform into a new system that is, as you say, allows the work to get done. So I want to
Yeah.
share with you that this is one of the reasons the results that are created with team coaching are one of the reasons why this is the fastest growing specialization in coaching today. So the
And
ICF, yes,
it's been the expertise has been growing for 20 years with team coaching.
that's
Worth
right.
saying.
And this growth in the industry is definitely being fueled and funneled by need, but also by the results that are happening. And
Yeah.
Phil and Alexis, our founders, said, if 90% of teams are not achieving their potential, then there's a demand for there's a need out there. There's pain that organizations are feeling, and and we've got an entire system. And the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, has recognized this as a field where they have advanced certifications now. And the interesting
Mm.
thing is that TCI was really the initiator, started this process, and the founders, Alexis and Phil, co-created the ICF framework for team coaching. So the whole methodology that is being used by the entire industry, we're not using it. We are using it, but the key point is we help create it.
Yeah.
So that just in terms of the credibility and the experience and where all of this comes from, it comes from Team Coaching International. At the time, 20 years ago, the ICF was only focused on life coaching, individual coaching, and this was an entirely new genre of coaching.
Yeah.
And we created this industry, and it has blossomed because the need is so great. So as part of the coaching that we do, we want to measure. You talked about going from point A to point B. Well, how do you know where point A is if the team doesn't know? One of the things that we do is we help the team identify what makes it great, or where they want to be that's great. And every team exists, as you've already pointed out, to do one thing. It's to get stuff done. Doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's education or nonprofit or government or for profit, it's to produce results, the team's capacity to get the job done. We call that productivity. And the other thing that we're looking at is positivity. This is really the team's ability to connect and create the environment where people are engaged and want to work. They want to get things done. So those are too high level. What's involved? What are we measuring, Pollyanna, when we're looking at productivity and positivity?
We're measuring 14 key traits. And if you pop that slide back up, people can see what those traits are.
Yes, give me one second. I'm going to share the screen here for
Yeah,
you.
just so that they can, if they want to take a screenshot of that, they can do. Please feel free to. So this is based on deep research. I mean, teams leadership is probably one of the most researched topics out there. So it's based on data collected over decades. When a team has capability in the productivity sense, think about that two-sided Venn. The magic happens in the middle, right? You need both. So goals and strategies, are you aligned and clear on that as a team? If you sat around with your team members and asked, what are our goals and strategies? What are we working towards? Would there be alignment in that? Would everyone be in agreement? Accountability, what does accountability mean for this team as a system, as a unit together? Where are we in alignment and out of alignment? Well, the answer to some of these questions will really shine some light on that. Decision making, being proactive. How proactive is the team together? Resources, and sometimes it's not about how do we get more resources, how are we utilizing the resources that we have?
Yes.
I've worked, so many leaders are doing it hard, teams are doing it hard. It's a tough environment right now, and scrambling to do more with less. However, I've worked with so many teams where their resources scores have improved, not because they've got more resources, but they've actually utilized the resources they have in a more effective way. Team leadership, what does it mean for the team to lead collectively together? And sometimes, Spencer, that might mean you come in your area of expertise and the other teams stay back, or the leadership emerges within the team. When we measure leadership in the team system, how does leadership show up in this team? It's not about pointing to the leader and going, yeah, you, it's all about you. It's how do we bring leadership into this team? And when do we step forward? When do we step back and allow leadership to emerge from other sources and other areas of expertise? Positivity is not all rainbows. Spencer made a joke earlier on. So it's not all Pollyanna.
Yeah, exactly.
So that positivity thing, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? Sometimes it's tough and the conversations are hard. And it's not around, that toxic positivity of let's pretend everything's happy.
Right.
How do we see the potential and the optimism in this team? And what does that take to get there? And again, those 14, there are 7 positivity factors that are measured, again, based on, solid research. And globally, this process is getting an uplift for teams of 20%. And we'll talk more about that later on. You jump on the TCI website, the positivity and productivity factors are there. Use that as a way of having conversations with your teams on Monday.
Yeah.
If you're watching the World Cup, what are you observing? Teams acting together. We can't have a bunch of individual rock stars. We need to see how do all these talented people come together to create a winning environment.
Pollyanna, I had another story about that. I was living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I had a group of friends. They were all professionals. One is the weatherman. He's still a weatherman down there, and we had these friends. We were playing basketball with like a city league. And one Saturday, we decided we wanted to go down to the beach, Myrtle Beach, and play outside, which is always super fun. So we're just down there, a couple of friends, and we're playing. And this other group of young men, much younger than we were, and and they challenged us because they thought they could just wipe the floor with, most of the people on my team looked like me in terms of fair skin, and we just like slow, you know, people and basketball players, and this team thought they were going to have an easy go of us. They were individually incredibly talented, and we had so much fun playing together. We played together as a team. We were just beating them, and they
Mm.
started getting so mad, and they started yelling at each other, and just calling each other names, and because it was just incomprehensible to them that these slow old dudes could beat them. The
So
difference
what is the
was,
system telling you then? You know, this, if you're on that team,
yeah,
what happens when we're not performing? How do we respond to each
this
other?
team lashes
You
out. This
know?
is a team that lashes out when things don't go as they expect.
Mm. Yeah.
That's a systems look at that. But from our perspective, ours was a team was having fun, and just playing together, and enjoying our time together. And it was, but it was all about the fact that when playing together as a team, that beats talent every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's
Absolutely.
let's
Absolutely.
go back to this idea. If you struggle with the idea of positivity, replace it with the word engagement.
Mm.
And it just there are some people that really have an issue with this idea, because of what you said, toxic positivity. Great. So make sure that you replace that with engagement, and that is how people are really working hard, and not sabotaging performance. Okay, let's now look at the model. As when we put it all together, we come up with this model of high productivity, which is the horizontal plane. So if you look at the left side, that's low productivity. The right side is high productivity. And then the vertical plane is what we call positivity. So this creates four different climates that businesses operate in. And we could be down here on the bottom right, uh, right here, where we have high productivity but low positivity. And Pollyanna, it's a tough environment, right? There's a lot of competition, results, meritocracy. It's just
It is indeed. And it's siloed and you're running hard and hopefully you're not going to end up in ER, right? Because you get sick here. People get sick here emotionally, physically, but
Yeah.
also burnout, talent retention.
Which means
It's
that that's not sustainable, then, is it?
it's not sustainable. Absolutely. It is not sustainable at all.
Well, what many leaders fear is this quadrant right here, which is the high positivity but low productivity, where we have fun together, we enjoy the working together, we tolerate incompetence, if you will. We don't challenge each other, we don't, we don't set high goals, and that's a not sustainable
No,
climate as
not at all.
well.
And it's all this is a really interesting quadrant because this is where on the surface everyone goes, oh, we're a great team. We're like family. Not always helpful, right? Because there are things that are rewarded in this quadrant that is not constructive to a high performing team.
Yeah.
So you're all going to get fired at some point because you're not getting the job done.
Yeah, yes,
Or
but you're not going to get as fired as fast as if you're on this team on the bottom left, which is
and I don't mean that glibly. It's just it's as tough a place to operate
yes.
as the red quadrant, but for different
This
ways,
beige
right?
quadrant is depressing
Oh,
because
that's beautiful.
people
Yeah.
are looking for the next opportunity, because we not only have low productivity, we have low positivity, and it really takes something out of you, even if you're not working that hard. Um, it's an emotional and mental and physical drain.
Well, protecting your turf is exhausting, right?
Yeah.
And being on the receiving end, or being the one that is, in that blame criticism culture, again, it's an incredibly unhealthy environment across every level, not just for the work you're there to do, but what the ripple effect of that. What is this team like to work with in a cross-functional sense? It's an incredibly heavy place to operate from.
Yes.
And when you're deep in that quadrant, that they're the environments where this team may not have the capacity or the ability to continue towards the blue zone in its current form. Sometimes there are some tough decisions to make.
Of course, yes. And where we ultimately want to arrive at is to the top right. We want to move the entire system as far into that blue quadrant as possible. And that's where we are. It's like the team that I was playing basketball with. We're in flow. We have open communications. Hey, I'm open, and we see each other, and we pass the ball, and we're like, hey, how do we get better? How do we set how do we make better plays? And it's just really very it's fun to be here. But again, it doesn't mean that it's always positive, because there's some tough conversations that are happening, and people are not being defensive because there's trust, there's psychological safety. We enjoy being together. We enjoy the work that we have together. And that is the goal of team coaching, is to move every organization up as far to the right as possible. Now, what it mostly looks like when we start, this is a very average profile of a team, is they're going to have a footprint of how the system shows up. And Pollyanna, you've probably noticed this with all of your engagements, that it has some variation of this. But there are elements of high performing on a team. There's elements of low positivity but high productivity. That's, there's elements of low, and there's elements of high positivity, low productivity. So we want to take that footprint and shrink it and move it up to the right as far as we possibly can.
And diagnosing what creates that is really is core, is foundational. And sometimes it could be, is it situational?
Yeah.
Are we dipping down into these other quadrants because of the environment or a situational aspect? Just understanding that, and then how does the team solve for this? There's a fundamental truth in team coaching, that one of the many principles that we have, and that is the team has within it the means to excel.
Right.
Right. It's such an important foundational concept. You together, you have the means to solve for this. Let's get really clear on what we're solving for and
And
why we're solving for that.
and team coaches have to have that perspective, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it turns out to be true, because as soon as the team becomes aware of their systemness or their teamness, then they can begin to be conscious about how to change it. So
Yeah.
before we move off of the quadrants, I'd love for our listeners to take another poll, if you will. Which climate best describes the team you're working with right now? Go ahead, and if you're, are you in the red, where you have high productivity, low positivity? Are you in the green, where you have high positivity, low productivity? Are you in that beige, where it's low, low? Are you in the blue, where you have high productivity, high positivity? Where are you at right now in the teams that you're working with? Which best
And
describes?
is this situational, or is it the way this team generally operates? Good question to ask yourselves.
Yeah, it could be like you could have elements of high performing, but when the pressure is on, when
Mm.
deadlines happen, when projects hit, what is it that we default to? What do we go back to most often?
And there's
Because
something, Spencer, I talk about often, is muscle memory.
yeah,
As you know, I skydived for years, and muscle memory was very important to save your life in those tricky times. And when the team develops collective muscle memory in how they operate, when times are tough, that muscle memory kicks in. So the process, why this process is sustainable, is the team learns to function at a level in that blue quadrant. So when times are tough, when those situational circumstances arrive, the team doesn't default to those below the line behaviors.
Yeah, I like that. And so most of the people responding are in that red zone, and that's
Yeah.
not uncommon. We so fortunate that we have listeners that are in the blue, but right now most are in the red, and that's not uncommon, especially for the world that we live in today. We need to. We're getting short on time.
Right.
I'd
Yeah,
love
I'm
for
looking at the.
you, Pollyanna. I'd love for you to describe what a typical team coaching engagement looks like.
Yeah. And to just clarify, it is an engagement. Everybody wants to get fit and to be, nice and supple, and buying a yoga mat's not going to do that for you, right? It takes work. There's sorry to burst that bubble, people, but it takes a little bit of work. So the first part is discovering, is this the right engagement? There are team days that can be incredibly useful. This is not a team day. This is a team process for long-term sustainable results. And it is a process. We meet as a coach, you meet with the team leader to assess, is this the right fit? What are the expectations of this engagement? What are they looking to see different within the team? What support do they need throughout that process as well? The moment that conversation happens, change is starting to be seeded.
Yeah.
Then every team member, I'm just going to go high level, right? But reach out if you want more information. Every team member completes the diagnostic, and the diagnostic is the systems view, not my individual view on an individual team member or my performance. It's how do I view the team as a system? So there's a little bit of an education piece there before that happens. Then we do what we call the reveal, and that's usually a 2-day offsite where we gather everybody together and we go, so it's a combination of train on the methodology so that you can utilize the methodology, reveal the team results. But while we're revealing the team results, we're also doing the work of the team. What does that mean? That means, say you have policy decisions to make that you're stalling on. We look at decision making, and typically decision making might be low if you're stuck on decision making. So we do the work that the team has to do in the session while we're observing how the team does this across those key categories of the 14 capabilities. So the team members at the end of that 2 days, they go home, go for a run, pick up the kids, do whatever. They don't run back to their office to do the work that they didn't get done because they were in an offsite. That's a really key distinction of this process as well. The team does the work the team needs to do while in the system, while learning about how the team operates.
So wait a minute. You're
Correcting.
telling me that they're actually doing work in this team coaching process?
Yes, they are doing work. It's not all chocolate brownies, right? Although we do have chocolate brownies at 3:00.
I love that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go. You're doing work. So I'll give you an example. An organization, a team I worked with, had to make some key policy decisions, and they were stuck as a team on this. So we said, well, what are they? Let's list them. And I will observe the system, the team, as you work through this. And then we contract to dive in and go, okay, so how effective is this conversation right now? Well,
Yeah.
It's not, right? Because they're not moving forward. What's blocking it from moving forward? And this is a very simplistic high-level view of how that would play out. But we start to look at what's blocking the decision-making process within the team. And we solve for that.
So
And
that
then
is the key. You are finding solutions to the problem. That's the work.
that's the work. So yeah, you do work, and the team members are pretty tired after a 2-day process.
Yeah, they're not just sitting there. Yeah, I love that. I think that's so great. So let's round it out.
Then we there is in the full process, there is 6 months of team coaching. You have to have time to test stuff out and to process and to work together in this new way. So every month for 6 months, I meet with the team, or we meet with the team for an hour and a half, and we course correct. We again work with the team, on the team, the work the team's there to
They
do
have to learn how to
while
practice what
adjusting.
they're learning, right? They need time to practice and return and report and
Correct.
adjust.
Correct. And then we measure, right? Because you need to, we measure the results. So there is another diagnostic to measure the results. So the team is seeing itself in its systems form for the first time. And that can be a range of emotions, anything from highly insightful to a little confronting. But we are there to support that process, and the teams get through that process together, which is a really special part of
And
this
this
work
is an
that we do.
example of a couple of layers that we would look at, different ways of looking at
Correct.
data. And this is, there's lots of team diagnostics out there. This is one that is, it's psychometrically validated. It's just such a great uh, tool. And so you can see very easily, and I love, for example, this, the highest scoring questions and the lowest scoring. So you can really dig into where our strengths are and where the opportunity for improvement is.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And what's really exciting about that is it presents the layers of the information, and each time we go through the report, you get more information.
right. And
So
so, things like where do we as a system least agree? Where do we most agree? So these are just examples of some of the data that you would get in that
absolutely,
diagnostic. So what's the
absolutely.
result? We actually have some people that joined us on the webinar because I don't know if they were having problems with the. There's Rick. Thank you for joining us. Had a hard time watching. It says we're streaming on LinkedIn, but I don't know what's exactly happening. So,
No, I've
uh,
had. I'm not sure if Cindy got on as well, so I'm so sorry. We'll run another one. That's okay. We'll keep keeping up there.
and
These are some real team results.
we will
Sorry.
send this recording to everyone who registered, and so share with
Absolutely.
us what happens. What's the outcome of this process? You've done the diagnostic, you've done the exploratory, you've done the coaching. Then what
Yeah.
happens?
These are the numbers you see in front of you are results from a team I worked with, and it's oh, Cindy, I can see Cindy there. Hi, Cindy. The team I worked with, and this is the results they received. They got 39% uplift in positivity, a 47% uplift in productivity, trust increased by 60%, accountability by 69%. That's team accountability. And leadership within the team by 52%. For context, this was a one of the large banks here in Australia and a not-for-profit that came together on a community project. So think about what happens, what would it mean for your team and organization and the work you do, the impact you want to have to get those results. It's extraordinary, but I know we're running out of time. So
Yeah, no,
um,
and I mean, I love that you've shared the story of how these two teams came together and created
yes,
such an impact in the community. I'll give you an example of one of my clients, and this was very early on after I had certified, early in my team coaching career, and I was working with an organization that was the number 12 fastest growing of the Inc. 5000 at the time that I started working with them, but the executive team was really struggling, especially with
yeah,
communication and how they work together. And we did a 7 month engagement. We did everything that Pollyanna just talked to you about, plus about 7 months of total work together. The overall productivity scores on average raised 14%. But you can see some of these elements, for example, of like accountability, which was a real problem, increased
yeah,
23%. But the positivity, look at this, over 23% improvement in engagement. Look at their ability to communicate effectively. It improved 48%. Well, here's the impact of that. What they said is that in that 7 month period, their revenue doubled. Not didn't double, excuse me, increased 50%. That's
yeah.
50% improvement in their bottom line. We have story after story of case studies that we can share. I'm just going to highlight a couple here as we wrap up because we're done with time. But
And you see what Spencer's saying here is it's not guesswork.
It's not
No,
guesswork.
the biggest challenge that I had pre this learning this process was you're really just relying on what the team are telling you when you're in the room.
Yeah.
This channels the conversation to the real issues and the real all the metrics, where this team is operating really effectively and well together and where they're not. So there's
Yeah.
no guesswork in this process. And
And
prior to this, it was all guesswork.
right. And then when you say from how do we know we're getting from A to B? Well, we measure it. So we
Yeah,
start
correct.
where are they at the beginning and where are they at the end of the engagement? In this testimonial of one of our coaches said it saved the company. Well, who is this for? Who is this work of team coaching for? It's for
Yeah.
executive leadership coaches. It's who want to expand into team working with teams. There are internal coaches. There's human resource departments, organizational development professionals. One of the clients I'm working with right now with one of the largest, the number one airline in the world. This was actually brought to us by an internal L&D, learning and development employee, and she just didn't feel like she had the authority to do it internally, so she brought us in. But as it grows throughout our organization, she and her team are going to take over, and it's just so wonderful because she had been through our certification program and knew how wonderful it was and wanted to bring it to her organization. This is for consultants who want a validated, measurable process. It's really hard to go out there as a consultant, as a coach, and say, hey, I make a difference. And it's not just touchy-feely. It is measurable impact, Pollyanna, which is what you were talking about. It works, and that's what you were saying earlier. It's for leaders and practitioners who want their teams to really, really go. So my question to you is, as a practitioner, if you're listening to this, what would change, and this is another poll question for you, this is our last one, what would change in your practice if you could offer a validated, measurable team process and not just a workshop? What would be the benefit of that? And if you've got your phone out, uh, Pollyanna's friends, everybody's Pollyanna right now.
I
Um,
know I sent them my link because they couldn't get in, so I hope that's okay.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, what would change in your practice if you could have a tool like this? I'll give you just a second. I'd love to hear from a few of you. And being quiet,
Mm.
better accountability. Yeah, have some wins with your clients, right? The
Mm.
results that I can confidently offer teams. That's great. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting, the market's tough at the moment, but so I'm coughing. I'll put myself on pause for a moment. Hang on.
Well, yeah, this is, it is tough, and people don't want, they want hard results, and this gives it. We see an average improvement of 20% productivity and 20% positivity on average, and that's across 20 years. Well, so how do you start doing this? Well, you become certified in team coaching processes from Team Coaching International. We have a certification called the CTPC, which is the Certified Team Performance Coach. That starts with taking a master class. Well, we have a few master class opportunities that are coming up, and one of them starts next month. I believe the 9th. If you're in Australia, is it the 9th or the 8th? Oh, you're muted.
Hello, I'm back and I'm not coughing now. It starts on the 8th and 9th in Australia, 7th and 8th in the US.
Yes, so 8th and 9th in Australia, the 7th and 8th in the US, and we have timed this specifically for our friends in Asia Pacific, so that so you're not up in the middle of the night. But our own Pollyanna Lenkich is going to be our senior faculty who is leading this. I will be joining and adding color commentary. and
And wisdom, and
and
wisdom as
wisdom
well.
and experience when
Um,
I'm there. So we are so excited to be able to offer that. And so when you attend the master class, you are learning the model, the system that you can take back to your clients. You have the ability to do assessments, and you will learn all the 5 team core competencies. This is what you are going to get when you take this master class, and you get ICF. This is important. Continuing coaching, continuing education units towards your which are so important if you're keeping your ICF certification active. And through that process, I think it's up to close to 30 continuing education if you get your CTPC. But it starts with this master class. And we have, as you can see on this screen right here, we have July 8th through the 24th, and that is for Asia Pacific, 7th through the 23rd in North America. And that's all. It's all virtually, and you can, if you want more information about that, I want you to message me, put it in the chat. We have an opportunity in September, which is geared towards North America and Europe. The timing for that, and we also have a live masterclass that is going to be happening in Amsterdam on the September 22nd. So we have 2 classes going on September the 22nd, one virtual and one live in Amsterdam, which I will be leading with our partner, Jane Zhang and Talent Insights out of Dusseldorf, Germany. So listen, before we say goodbye, I know some of you are just coming in last minute, and so I don't want to. I wish we had more time to set up everything, but we have this class coming very, very soon. If you decide to register for this class today, and you're on this call today, it's $3,200 to go to the master class, which is not a lot for a coaching certification with the power and the tools that you're going to have. We will provide that to you for $29.95, but you have to contact me by the end of today. So that's the end of today, Australia time. And so for those of you who are here in North America, get it to me by midnight. For those of you who are registered on LinkedIn, I'm going to share this recording. I'm going to give you an extra day, but only that. It's we do not want to discount this because the value is so tremendous. Now, if you just want to test out what the diagnostic is all about, here's your free gift. You can absolutely scan this and register. You'll get what's called a team leader view. It's the team diagnostic, but we call it a team leader view because it's only one person's perspective. It's not of the team. It's not a true diagnostic. It's your perspective, but it will enable you to understand how the assessment works. And you get a session where we go through and debrief that together. So huge value in that. I mean, it's worth just that alone with the time that I will spend with you. For my coaching time, it's worth about $1,500 is what you're going to be getting. So that's free, and there's no commitment whatsoever to take that. You just need to take a picture of that. And if you want to register and take advantage of the masterclass discount, message me here or email me at Spencer@teamcoachinginternational.com. Spencer, Spencer, at teamcoachinginternational.com.
and
I'm
Spencer,
going
can
to leave you the last word, Pollyanna.
I just add that when I did this training, many moons ago, I was able to run a team process after the masterclass. And because I'm a external consultant, that actually ended up covering the costs of my training. If you're an internal coaching consultant or L&D professional, then you can start running it internally and using the methodology and process. And we are here to help you. We're here to support you. And now you become a part of this community. And that has served me so well over the decades I've been doing this work. But thank you for spending time with us today. And all I can say is go Socceroos. I'm off to watch the game.
I'll hang out. Anybody want to chat?
I'll hang out for a bit as well. Yeah.
Allow to talk. Jill, thanks for joining us. can you hear us,
Hi,
Jill?
Spencer. Yeah, I can hear you now.
So
Hi, Jill.
you've been through this training,
Hi.
haven't you?
Yes, it's very good training. I actually have already done a team assessment already.
How'd it go?
Fantastic.
Yeah, it went well. So it was just the first meeting with the agreements with the owner of the company. Her It's a small company. There's only seven on their team, and I would say that they are a reluctant team. Her husband is the only one who has not completed the diagnostic, and she's kind of had to hound him to complete that. They're on vacation this week, and then she said she's going to call me next week so we can talk, about how to schedule the reveal and all of that. But it was definitely challenging because A, it was my first one, and B, I know her, and sometimes I think that's a little harder. But um,
Which is why sometimes that you bring in a co-coach or an outside just to create, because sometimes familiarity breeds that so they say contempt, but or they might just take advantage of that friendship that you have.
But also, when you're in the system, you can't view the system objectively
You
until
cannot.
it's revealed, right? That's why there's power in having somebody external at times come in to help reveal, have those tougher conversations. A lot of my chief people officer L&D clients will have me work with the senior teams, and then they will roll it out with the mid-tier levels, mid-management level teams, and
Yes.
ifs. That works really well.
Yeah.
So when you are a new team member, those first couple of days are golden because you see the team for what it is before you actually induct into the team.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you though, Jill. Thank you for
Yeah, well done, Jill.
actually taking what you learned and immediately applying it, and
Mm.
that's how you learn and gain experience, right?
absolutely. But I am interested to have the co-coach and to be a co-coach. I really when we talk about going back to the classes, I think that was one of the best experiences because I'm learning along with other new coaches, and we just created a really good bond, and there's this trust there. Like I know I could call any of them to be a co-coach, and they would call me, and it's a good training base to start from. You're just not thrown out there all on your own, which is very nice.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, you're describing the community, and that was your cohort of coaches from the classes that you took, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well,
Congratulations, Jill.
absolutely, Jill. I don't see any other chats, but for those of you who registered on LinkedIn, I apologize one more time. It said it was live, and we'll get that figured out. You know what? I sabotaged it on purpose, Pollyanna, so I could do this with you again.
So we have to do it again, and absolutely. And it's layers upon layers, and one of the benefits is each time you engage with community, the TCR community in the work,
Yeah.
it brings more depth to the work that you're able to deliver. And exactly as Jill mentioned, when you have people that you can co-lead this work with, the client gets better